In the quaint, unassuming town of Maplewood, where life moved at a gentle pace, and the air was thick with the scent of blooming lilacs and freshly cut grass, Linda lived what appeared to be the quintessential life of a devoted housewife. At 32, she was the embodiment of grace and charm, her beauty accentuated by her warm smile and kind demeanor. Mark, her husband of 10 years, was a kind-hearted man, always ready to lend a hand to neighbors or volunteer at the local community center. They were the couple everyone admired, the envy of many. But beneath the surface of this idyllic existence lay a dark secret that twisted like a vine around Linda's heart. She was entangled in a passionate affair with Jason, a rugged lumber dealer whose charisma drew her in like a moth to a flame. Their clandestine meetings were filled with fervor and excitement, a stark contrast to the mundane routine she shared with Mark. Every stolen moment with Jason was a thrill, a dangerous dance that made her feel alive, yet every secret rendezvous chipped away at her conscience. Mark, blissfully unaware of the betrayal that lurked within the walls of their home, continued to shower Linda with love and affection. He had always trusted her implicitly, believing that their bond was unbreakable. But trust, like glass, can shatter with a single crack. When Mark accidentally stumbled upon a message on Linda's phone, the truth unraveled like a tightly wound spool of thread. The betrayal cut deep, and the despair that engulfed him was palpable. Linda watched in horror as the light in his eyes dimmed, replaced by an abyss of sorrow. Days turned into weeks, and Mark's heartache festered, leading him to a dark place from which he could not return. One fateful evening, in a moment of unbearable anguish, he took his own life, leaving behind a note that echoed his love for Linda, mixed with an overwhelming sense of betrayal. The world around Linda crumbled, and she was left standing amidst the wreckage of her choices, feeling the weight of guilt like a leaden shroud. In the aftermath of Mark's death, Linda found herself enveloped in a cocoon of grief, yet she was determined to move on. She buried her sorrow beneath a facade of normalcy, convincing herself that life must continue. She resumed her daily routines, but the shadows of her past loomed large, whispering reminders of the love she had lost. Jason, ever the opportunist, was quick to offer his support, stepping into the void left by Mark's absence. Linda, desperate for comfort, leaned into this new relationship, but the echoes of her betrayal haunted her. As the days passed, strange occurrences began to unravel the fabric of her new life. It started with whispers in the quiet of the night, soft and mournful, calling her name in a voice that sent chills racing down her spine. Linda brushed it off as her imagination, a product of her guilt and grief. But the whispers grew louder, more insistent, echoing through the empty halls of their home. Then came the footsteps. At first, they were faint, barely audible over the creaking of the old house. But as the nights wore on, they became more pronounced, a steady rhythm that echoed through the darkness. Linda would lie in bed, heart racing, straining to hear the source of the sound, only to find nothing but the oppressive silence of the night. Yet she could feel it, a presence, lingering just beyond her reach, watching, waiting. As the 49th day after Mark's death approached, the atmosphere in the house grew heavier, thick with an unshakable dread. Linda began to dream of Mark, his face a blend of love and sorrow, his eyes pleading with her to acknowledge the truth of what she had done. In these dreams, he would whisper to her, his voice a haunting melody that tugged at her heartstrings. "You left me, Linda. You betrayed me," he would say, the words echoing in her mind long after she awoke. Each morning, Linda would wake drenched in sweat, her heart racing, the weight of her guilt pressing down on her chest. She tried to ignore the signs, to convince herself that it was merely her mind playing tricks on her, a manifestation of her remorse. But deep down, she knew that something far more sinister was at play. The line between reality and the supernatural began to blur, and the feeling that Mark had never truly left her grew stronger. The night before the 49th day, Linda sat in the living room, the flickering candlelight casting dancing shadows on the walls. She felt an overwhelming urge to confront her past, to seek forgiveness, even if it was from a ghost. As she whispered Mark's name into the stillness, the air grew cold, and the shadows coalesced into a figure. It was Mark, his expression a mix of sorrow and rage. "You betrayed me, Linda," he said, his voice a chilling whisper that reverberated through her very soul. "You moved on as if I never existed." Tears streamed down Linda's face as she fell to her knees, the weight of her sins crashing over her like a tidal wave. "I'm so sorry, Mark. I never meant for this to happen," she sobbed, her heart breaking under the burden of her betrayal. Mark's ghostly form flickered, and for a moment, she saw the love she once knew in his eyes, but it was quickly replaced by the pain she had caused. "You must face the consequences of your actions, Linda. I am here to remind you that betrayal does not go unpunished." As the clock struck midnight, Linda felt the room grow darker, the shadows closing in around her. The whispers intensified, a cacophony of voices that echoed her guilt. She was trapped in a nightmare of her own making, forced to confront the truth she had tried to bury. In that moment, Linda understood that her betrayal had unleashed a force she could not control, a supernatural reckoning that would not rest until justice was served. With a heart heavy with remorse, she faced the specter of her past, ready to accept whatever fate awaited her. The price of betrayal was steep, and Linda was about to learn that some ghosts never truly rest, and some sins can never be forgiven. As the darkness enveloped her, she realized that the true horror was not just in the betrayal, but in the haunting realization that she had lost everything she once held dear.